Hi everyone, welcome to this week's CCC Maker Weekly webinar. Today we're going to have a great conversation about social media and how we can use it to tell our story. And we're joined by Maura, Devlin Clancy from City College of San Francisco, Perry Ray, Reinvent, and Perry does fantastic work with our website and social media, and Karen Fraser-Middleton, who you're all familiar with as our communications consultant. And as usual, we're also joined by Salomon. Okay, great to see everyone. Welcome.
Thank you.
So this week, just a couple of quick sort of, in fact, a holiday-oriented update. There was a great event up in Santa Maria where Allen Hancock College had their mobile makerspace in the Parade of Lights. So there were literally thousands of people at the parade who were enjoying not just the watching the makerspace go by, but we're also engaging with the robot character who was apparently a big hit with the kids. So this was posted on our website. So there's a great blog on that. Thanks very much to Rob. We also have the grand opening of the Foothill College Makerspace at the Krause Center of Innovation. And as you can see, they did a big ceremonial ribbon cutting and there were over 100 people in attendance. So this was actually tweeted out or retweeted by the college president, who's a huge supporter of the work there. So excellent work with Kyle and the team there. It's very, very exciting to see the new makerspaces coming online. So that's great. And also a big shout out to Laney College, where Danny Beasley and his team fabricated a number of props for the TEDx conference in Oakland. So that presidential seal off to the right that you see in the right-hand photo, that was fabricated at the Laney Fab Lab. So fantastic to see that the work that's being done at Laney is actually making it out into the world. And this, I think, is very much in the tradition of some of the work that they're doing at Laney with the tiny houses and other fabrication projects. So excellent work there. So updates on what's happening in our maker community. Big news came out about a week ago that Nation of Makers has selected Santa Fe as their destination for their first convention of makers. And there's a lot of different ways that we can be involved in this project. You can volunteer to help at the event. And also there's opportunities to serve on leadership committees within the event. And there's also a second link there to a site where you can submit ideas for the conference. So there's a lot going on in the lead up to this. It's a very active situation where they're taking a lot of input in formulating this event. And it's in early June of next year. And I think we're all going to be looking forward to going to that. And just, of course, another reminder, Workplace is up and running and more people are using it. We're seeing it, a lot of really valuable and interesting information going through there. So make sure you're, check out your Workplace once a day, download the mobile app, and you'll see what everyone's up to, and there's some great resources coming on there. Just a reminder, we've got the symposia coming up next year, one in March, one in April. And as Bree was talking about last week when she reviewed the ISAM papers, we really want to support people to develop their academic papers for submission to these conferences. So this is part of the professional development that we can assist you with to help tell your story and develop documentation that can help you with sustainability and funding further down the road. So keep that in mind. And we also, of course, have the Maker Ed convening in May. I'm going to turn it over to Salomon now, who's going to talk about the update on our internships. So please go right ahead.
Thank you. There's a couple of you that you may not know, but we want to make sure we reiterate that you should have received the Career Catalyst contract from Sierra College that was already signed from the foundation and sent to your business contact there at your respective colleges. So if you haven't seen it or are not aware of it, please seek out the individuals listed as your business contact there for your college, since they did receive it. And many of you were probably copied on that email. So I'm hoping everyone's doing the legwork necessary to bring that to your Board of Trustees meeting since it is a contract with a foundation that establishes an understanding. Now, you're not going to receive any funding necessarily from the foundation, but it's just an establishment that you're going to go through the processes of establishing the protocols for onboarding students and employers per the contract of the Career Catalyst platform. So a lot of questions about that, and we're preparing an FAQ regarding this. A lot of folks are emailing or posting stuff on Workplace. I'm trying to collect all that, put that together, but there's a link there on this slide if there's further questions, so that we actually have a way to locate them, since currently they're coming through many which ways, which is perfectly acceptable. But if more come, we definitely want to make sure we log them in and respond to them appropriately and include them in the FAQ that is coming out. Along with that, we're preparing a workshop January timeline, late January, early February, with a foundation to go through all the processes that are coming forward with the onboarding of students and employers. This is after, of course, you get the Career Catalyst contract signed by your board and submitted back to Sierra College. And of course, this will help you onboard students and employers to get the whole process rolling for you next spring. There's a link that I also wanted to make you aware that is on this one slide. That's relative to the worksite evaluation. Now, if you've read the Career Catalyst contract, it alludes to a couple of sample documents for which there is a paper form every college needs to submit evaluating the site of the potential employer who will host an intern. Now, this is the vetting process that needs to be submitted to make certain things are safe, that the space is adequate, and that certain federal laws are followed about postings of minimum wage and harassment and those sort of topics that are just legally binding. So it is your purview to make sure that all that is in place to submit for appropriate intern placement. Now, there's a link there for an electronic version of it, which would make it easier to fill out and submit the information instead of just writing it on a piece of paper and turning that in. So that's also going to be part of the training, but you can take a preview, look at this, and get your employers interviewed as the contract is going through the board process. And lastly, there's something we're working with all of your great information that you're submitting through your quarterly reports. So thank you very much for timely submission of those. If you note, there's actually two sections. There's a narrative section and there's a data section, for which as you feed into these particular forms, they will port directly to a dashboard that looks kind of like the graphic that you see there in the foreground of the slide. It's still not yet ready to go for public consumption, but we're hoping that pretty soon we'll release it, especially once you submit quarterly 2 reports later on actually in January. But hopefully we'll have this up so that you can see the impact that we're actually developing throughout this initiative across our state. So thank you very much. Your data is important and valuable and is being utilized to communicate our impact across the state. So if there is any issues with the way you submit data, you may get an update request from myself to clarify numbers, specifically since it's porting all the digital numbers directly from your submittal to this document. So make sure you include numerical data in the quarterly report when asked to, since if you put any text, it actually may bring down the dashboard temporarily until I go in there and fix up anything that you submitted. But we appreciate your help in submitting the numbers for the metrics.
You're on mute, Deb.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm hoping to share each week a research paper or a study that can help you to both understand the impact and the importance of the work that we're doing, but also to enable you to advocate to others for the value of the makerspace. This is particularly for example, for your college leadership. So a a study came out of Stanford just in the last few days talking about how to develop more inventors through innovative environments. And it talks about the issue in a number of different ways. It talks about specifically the need for innovation and inventors in order to improve growth and productivity in the American workforce and for the American economy. It also talks about how so many young students are lost to this process because of either income or access to a supportive environment. So we're seeing, and they're referring to these students as lost Einsteins. And it makes the argument that it's imperative that these students are able to maximize their potential within our economy to start businesses, to gain patents, and to achieve a financially successful career. So it's really nice the way it's all tied together. And it has an executive summary, and there's also some slides you can download. But this is I think this is a really valuable piece to read and to use to share our message. So thanks for taking the time to have a look at that. Okay, and now we're turning it over to Karen, Maura, and Perry to talk about social media. Thanks very much.
Great, thanks, Deb. So we're going to talk about social media and how you can use it as an effective tool to tell the story of your journey through developing your makerspace community, to highlight the impact that you're having on students, and participate with your ecosystem through social media. So next slide, please, Deb. So our first guest is Maura Devlin Clancy, and she's with the City College of San Francisco. And she actually created the very first social media class at the college, and she's the lead on the CCC Maker team at her college, developing and coordinating the Maker Sphere. So we're delighted to have you here today, Maura. Next slide. And also with us today is Perry, and Perry handles all of the CCC Maker social media, and she's also an expert working with industry, developing their social media strategies and getting the word out about them. So we couldn't be doing it without you, Perry. So we're delighted you're here to share your expertise as well. Slide. And I'm Karen Fraser Middleton, and I work on the overall communication strategy for CCC Maker. Next. So let's start with, why should they do social media? I think that, Perry, maybe you'd like to take this question. What is it that social media can do for these college teams and their makerspace community? What's the overall benefit?
Well, social media is, after all, social. So it is, it gives the ability to learn everything that's going on from the wider community. So you can reach places and people that you never thought possible with social media, especially like Twitter. Twitter is probably my favorite just because you can reach so many people with hashtags and search terms. There's more search terms per day on Twitter than there are on Google. So it's a fantastic place to make connections and learn what's going on in the community. And also it's a way to have two-way conversation. Colleges will really be thought of as the thought leader when they're getting information, sharing information, talking about maker spaces on social media. And that's pretty much what, one of the strategies of social media is to become known as a thought leader. It's a great place to educate community of what your makerspace is doing and the partners that you're working with, and also a place to invite students and faculty and other partners to join in. And it's a way to collaborate with the community, to support other makerspaces, to highlight what other facilities are doing, and to co-create programs. So it's a way to get more people involved and find out what is needed, what kind of programs are needed, and get people to join in and co-create. And then, of course, to generate online buzz, which is, again, what social media is about here, just hearing about everybody and what they're doing, getting people to talk. The biggest thing you want is to get people to share what you're doing and to talk about you and get the word out as much as possible.
Great, thanks, Perry. Mara, do you want to talk about the audience and how you see that being an important part of the whole social media strategy?
Sure. So our audience, if we think about it in a couple of different ways. So, as our CCC Maker Network, our audience is our network, of course, the other grantees within the project, but also, at each individual school, we have administrators, we have students, we have other faculty, we have industry partners, we have vendors. There's so many players in this that, having a way to share exciting updates from your project. It's really, this project in particular, I think, lends itself to social media so much. I sort of have a few things that I do whenever I go into a new situation, such as a conference or a meeting or a presentation. I always, sort of start by looking to see if the presenter is on social media, or if the conference has is using Twitter or Facebook and encouraging participants to share on on a certain social network. So there's so many different pieces or people or players. It's sort of, in some way, it is mimicking our ecosystem, some ecosystem mapping, because there's so many different people. A couple of things that I've done is, if I'm working on a new piece of equipment, I will, tag the vendor in the tag, in my post, because, that they get excited to see their product being used in the classroom. Or if I'm, at a presentation and somebody does really something amazing and I post it, I tag the presenter, because, everybody likes to see their work being highlighted, and it's, but that then broadens who's seeing your posts, and you might get different followers through that. So the audience, you're sort of thinking about these little tiny audiences every time you have an opportunity to see or meet or hear new information. And I think it's just a good habit to be in when you're in that situation, to think about who can I connect through social media when I'm in this new place, learning these new things.
Right. Great. Thanks, Maureen. So to help you, on the left-hand side of the previous slide, we had the list from Twitter, where you can go into the CCC Makerspace Twitter and you can look at the list of members. So that's one way for you to be able to pick up the colleges that are involved in the CCC Maker project. And I also wanted to just comment that, when you are able to show students doing things and having fun and really seeing benefit in the makerspace as part of your audience, then they would share it with other students. And that's one way to really bring recognition among students that the makerspace might be something they'd like to get involved in when they're at your campus. Okay, next. So I also wanted to remind you that we're not covering the actual how to get set up on social media, but we do have several slide decks and training videos that are posted on the dashboard. So when you log into the CCC Maker website, where you go and put up your blog posts and information about your college, the very first thing you see is this Makerspace dashboard. So if you go over to the social media tab, you can go down here and you can click and get all the how-to decks on how to set up Facebook, how to set up Instagram, how to do Twitter, and there's also information about ideas of things that you can post and stuff. And you'll also find the webinars there. In addition, I just did a blog post this week where I included all of those links again. So there's a link right here where you can get to that blog post. And as a reminder, you can always go to our YouTube channels and find there's a social media channel under CCC Maker and YouTube. So there's a lot of places to help you get started with the mechanics of setting up your sites. Okay. So, Perry, if they're just getting started, what would you recommend as some of the first things that they ought to do if once they've set up a social media account?
Well, if you're just getting started and some people aren't super familiar with some platforms like Twitter, but as I mentioned, it's one of the better ones. And so just try baby steps. Basically, get on Twitter and follow the CCC Maker hashtag and look what others are doing. And if you're too, shy or not quite adept yet to start creating content or sharing your own, the best thing to do is start retweeting and sharing others. It's a way for them to find out who you are, and also you're basically sharing content through your account, so it's a great way to start. Another way is pictures. People love pictures, all about the pictures. So pictures and video, and if you don't have time to do it or still you're a little shaky on getting started, it's a great thing to delegate to a student, because students are going to know how to do it and they're going to like to do it, and they'll love it. And events is another great place to start. So all of your maker spaces are going to be having openings or lectures or anything like that. It's a great way to get started, because you're basically going to be talking about the event before it happens, telling people where and when, and then talking about it during the event, and hopefully doing some live video and pictures, and then talk about it after and let people know what had happened. So that's a couple of weeks of content right there just on an event. So tag everything with hashtag CCC Maker. It's a way for others to find what you're doing and a way for you to find what they're doing, and just get started. It's really easy, and make it fun, because that's what it should be: collaboration, information, and fun.
Right. And so using the CCC Maker tag, that's a way that you can see who's using that tag. And then if it's one of the CCC Maker colleges, then you might want to retweet what the college is saying. So, all right. So on the next one, how do you come up with, what you want to post more from a college perspective?
So content on the web is so important, and if you aren't posting things that are of interest to your network, then you're gonna lose them. You're gonna lose interest. So what if I find something interesting, then I make the assumption that my network will find it interesting, or if I find it new, then my network will find it new and exciting. So if I, for example, I'm at a conference and I'm seeing a demonstration, something that's super visual, I try to take a few pictures with my phone. The iPhone has really some nice new settings for video, slow motion video, portrait setting. You can take really beautiful pictures with smartphones these days. So, if I try to get out, and I try to learn as much as possible through conferences and other colleagues. And when I see something that is striking or amazing to me, I capture it. I just have gotten in the habit of taking pictures, posting to social media, tagging who's ever in it, tagging folks in the network. And then again, another idea I shared earlier is, the vendors, the 3D printer makers and the laser cutters, these are all technology companies with that have social media accounts as well, so connecting to them. And then finally, because of the portfolio, because the maker has an emphasis on portfolios, if you think of social media as a sort of portfolio on the fly, then that can get you thinking about documenting a process, or unpacking new equipment, or testing things out, trying things. Try to think about the experiences that the folks in your network would have, and how you can connect to them through that. Something that somebody else might relate to or learn from, or it's okay to sort of document your mistakes or document your learning. All that stuff teachers and students find very interesting. So it is about being mindful about what you're working on, and remembering to document and share it and take pictures. But that's where all the cool details come from. And like Perry said, having a student or having somebody else there, sort of planning ahead of time to be there to help you capture the action either with a phone or, even a video camera if you have that. So, just being prepared and trying to think, if you find it interesting, then probably the network will find it interesting too.
And of course, the students, at the end of the day, we're really interested in how the makerspace is improving the education experience for the students. So, seeing them in action and what they're discovering or how they're involved in your CCC Maker team are great ideas for content. The content also will help you when you're doing your quarterly reports, because it's a great way to kind of look back and reflect on what you've done over the quarter, and then that will help you figure out how to fill in all the information that Solomon was talking about earlier. So, what types of things when you first start doing social media would be good sort of content ideas, Perry, to sort of introduce yourself to the social media community and let them know about your space and what what you stand for, what you believe in at your makerspace?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Karen. You want to educate the community on what you are going to be doing in your makerspace, what kind of facility that you have, what kind of tools you're going to be using. And of course, you want to let them know about the location, hours, when they can get into the makerspace, describe any internships, meetups, anything you've got going on there. This is all in your startup posts, kind of highlighting everything about the makerspace. You also want to make clear who can join it, whether it's students, faculty, the community, highlight everything about who is going to be able to join, and then give them links, the ways that they can join, and let them know any fees that would be involved. So again, in taking those baby steps, this is an easy way to start getting content. Just start getting it out there, telling them everything about what you've got going on to get rolling.
Great, thanks, Perry.
Mm-hmm.
And can I add one thing to that? Sure. So I think an important part of that is an inclusive message. So being really careful to think about how you're branding or how you're positioning your makerspace so that it doesn't seem like it's for any particular subset of students, and that's hard to do, right? So without offering a specific strategy for that, just being really mindful of like which students are in the pictures and how you're describing the space, and just thinking with an equity and inclusive inclusion, a lens of inclusion, that you're using pictures and images of students and language that makes all students feel welcome in the space.
That's a really great add, Maura, because that's one of the key things for overall for CCC Maker, as far as our vision and mission and stuff, and that is to have inclusive maker spaces that welcome all students. So I know that some maker spaces are inviting different clubs of students that have different interests, and offering a wide variety of experiences in the makerspace so that they truly feel invited and welcome. And if we can document that with the social media, then that helps spread the word to all of the students that this is a place for you.
Right.
Okay. And then I thought, once you get started and you've got some information about your makerspace online on social media, and you're starting to engage more, what would be some of the other types of topics that people might consider covering with their social media?
So I think it's worth investing in either your time or with a professional photographer to get pictures and content of your space. I haven't seen much, like clip art or sort of canned stuff, but really showing what's authentic to each of the different campuses. Each there's so many campuses and the students are so different at each place. So, investing in showing what's authentic and real about the campuses is really cool. And then, I love like the idea of a demonstration. You can use either Periscope or Facebook Live to do a little quick, live stream of a video or a little presentation. That could be really fun to do. And then the Facebook and Twitter will remind you that a live stream is coming, so it brings people back to the site. Community information, of course, is super important. What are students doing? What companies or industry partners are coming to campus? Is there a guest speaker or a lecture that might be important or valuable to the group? And then, of course, every time reuse that great content. People are spending all this time writing their blog posts, link to that. It'll bring them from Twitter and Facebook or outside social media back to Workplace, back to CCC Maker. So cross-linking between the sites can be really valuable. Humor is that's a tricky one. You have to always sort of be careful when you're trying to make a joke, but I think, like nerd humor, tinkering humor, that kind of stuff is probably something that would go well. But, I think I'm funny, but I'm not really funny. So I tend to avoid it because I don't want to inadvertently, say something that ends up not coming across as I had meant it. And then also, sharing other maker spaces. So I went to a conference in Sonoma over the summer, and there was people from all over the country. There's a huge baking community in Pittsburgh. We're in San Francisco, but Sacramento region, of course, has a beautiful, wonderful active making community. Sonoma, Petaluma, the North Bay. There's so much making going on. So your local people can really benefit from seeing what's going on across the state. Between Sonoma and San Francisco is really a short distance, but we can be very disconnected. So what other maker spaces is doing is really super valuable. Taking an opportunity to highlight your colleagues. We presented, Dina and Zach and I presented at the JSPEC conference last week, and Dina was not on Twitter when she started, but I saw she was on Twitter by the end of the day. So, I wanted to give her, I had a great picture of her presenting. So I put her picture up there, and I used her Twitter handle there. And so now all of a sudden, I hope she got, some recognition for that, because it was, she gave a great presentation. They're doing really cool stuff at Woodland. So, we have to champion each other. And I think, the social media is a really great way to do that, to, highlight when we see something that someone else is doing that we think is great and cool, is to, to recognize them and share the good work that others are doing that we think our network should be seeing.
Absolutely. And it's great to be able to share those photos of each other and help each other, because we're always looking for photos. So I borrowed some from Zach recently as well.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to move around the room. I was presenting, and then Dina presented. So I had to, I had to leave the podium and go take a picture. So, don't be afraid to go where you need to go to get those nice shots, because it's really, sometimes you just have a couple minutes to capture it. But now she's on Twitter, and, I hope her, the folks at her college acknowledge, her contribution to that conference, because it was really great. So, I like to champion my colleagues when I can. And, just a small thing, but I think it's a way for us to encourage and support each other.
Absolutely. So on to the next slide. So we've talked about lots of different ideas. I'm wondering, Perry, can you help us sort of figure out, how much time should we be spending promoting, our space versus retweeting what other people are doing? Can you give us a sense of sort of what's standard in the industry, or what your recommendations are?
Yes, this is a suggested posting mix, but it's really just a suggestion. I think every industry is different, every company is different, and of course every makerspace will be different. But as Maura had mentioned earlier, you don't want to be posting stuff that's not going to be interesting to your community because you don't want to lose them. So just as you see in commercials or on maybe some other social media sites, they're constantly promoting, it sort of does turn you off. So probably, you know, and this number would be different at the beginning, but for actual promoting of the makerspace, maybe around 10 to 20%, talking about, you know, how to join and the things that we talked about earlier. Excuse me, in the beginning would be more. And then probably when you get to a good point of creating content, about 50% or even more if you have the time, should be about things that are going on in your makerspace, content that you're going to create, basically from, you know, taking the pictures of students doing a project, the curriculum, projects, as we talked about before, events, internships, awards, everything about your makerspace. And that's a lot of stuff. And it's, I mean, I think 50% is pretty easy to do, and maybe even a little bit more. And for the times that you just don't have as much going on or you're busier, you want to keep your account, have content on your account so people will stay interested. So that's a great time when you can promote others and, you know, do a lot of sharing of the other makerspaces and just, you know, businesses in your community that are being helpful, highlight, you know, other places that have content that, as Maura said before, if she finds it really interesting and if you find it really interesting, it's probably going to be interesting to your community. And then every time that you do share from someone else, you really just need to make sure that you're tagging them and, you know, so that it's not something that you're counting as your content, but it's really someone else's. So tagging is important in that community as well.
Great. Well, that'll help people get started.
We just have a quick question regarding this from Dominic. He's wondering if Perry could give us an idea of roughly how many hours a week this totals up to.
Well, I mean, I think it just depends on what's going on in your makerspace. Social media does take a little bit of thought, but once you get up and running on it, really, with your smartphone, you can be, you know, doing a couple of things here and there, you know, which only take minutes. So, you know, you have a lot going on, and social is a piece of it, but it is so convenient and easy on smartphones that, I mean, honestly, it's very fast and easy unless you're going to create you know, a big post of original content or create a video. But, you know, people just aren't doing that as much, and very fast, quick videos, the attention span on videos and things like that isn't very long anyway. So I don't know, Maura, how much do you think?
Yeah, so the actual pressing of the buttons does not take long, frankly, right? Like Perry said, you have Twitter or Facebook on your phone or your computer, and, you know, that part is very quick. But I think where the time goes into it is sort of immersing yourself in the content that you're going to be sharing. So always kind of factoring it into an event or something happening in the classroom or something happening at a conference. Like, that's sort of the part that you have to just always kind of have it in your mind, that is this something that will be valuable to my network, and is this something that I'd like to be ready to share if something happens, you know, because you're not always going to know, you know, you're always going to know what that moment is that might be of interest, right, at a conference or in the classroom. So being ready and being prepared to capture it, I think that's where the time comes in, you know, having your phone charged or having, you know, your laptop open, you know, and being ready for when you see something that's worth sharing. Because some of it is, you know, some of it is just, you know, at a conference, somebody presents something, it's really cool, you capture it and you share it. And some of it is you're doing research and reading, and somebody writes a blog post and you share that. So I think that's where the time comes in, is having it be part of your work related to Maker, so that you're ready to share when the opportunity comes up.
And I think if you spend, 10 minutes a day, I mean, I'm often, if I find myself standing in a grocery line or whatever, I'm like looking through the other people's messages to decide what to retweet. So if you have any downtime, that's a good chance to be looking at other people's content to share. And then you just have to be ready whenever you're in your makerspace to capture a photo and do a quick thing. So spending, 10 or 15 minutes a day would create quite a bit of social media opportunity for your college.
Yeah, I think that's a good call, and just making sure that you get into the habit of integrating it into, what you're doing on a daily basis there. And as Karen said, really you're going to be looking at what, researching materials anyway at certain times. And if you come across something that is, share worthy, then do it. But 10 or 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to take a bunch of time. And some days it may not, it may not be anything, but
share worthy. I love that, Perry. I love it. Right. So you just have to kind of be ready. And when you see something that is share worthy, I love that. That's exactly.
We're going to do that. Hashtag share worthy.
I love it.
and one of the things that we've just implemented on the CCC Maker website this week is that there are now the social media symbols are on the pages. So if you're reading another college's blog post, you can immediately click the little bird and it will set it up so that you can tweet immediately about that article and share that article with your network. And you can also do it for the article that you posted for yourself as well. But it's a great way for all of the colleges to be able to support each other by sharing the exciting news that's happening at the other maker spaces. And so you just go to the page that it's on and you'll see those symbols. And it's very fast and easy. So that should save you all time as well. Okay, let's go on. So what are some of the final tips that you might have, Maura?
Okay, so be ready, right? So your phone is charged, your social media applications you're logged in, and then wherever you are, be aware of how you might share what's happening in that space, whether it's a username or a hashtag. If it's you that's presenting, ask a colleague or a student or someone to help you out by taking pictures or video of you. Learn who else is in the room with you. If is there someone who's presenting, who's on social media, and then also think about cross posting. So if something shows up on CCC Maker or Workspace, can you share it on Facebook or Twitter or something else that you might be using? Instagram is another one. So think about leveraging what you are posting in other places so that you get maximum coverage. And also, have fun. Like really think about, what's new and what's out there that's people haven't seen. Highlight your students, highlight your colleagues, show off your new stuff. Think of it as a way of bringing the work and that you and your students are doing to the network. And if you can, have fun doing that, you end up getting a lot of great stuff.
Great. And you can also have different members of your team can all have access to your social media account so that they can all help you. You don't have to do this alone. You can get your whole team involved in posting to your college account. Yep. And Perry, do you have any last thoughts?
I think those are all excellent points. One other thing is when you're getting started, in order to get followers, you need to follow other accounts that are important. So we had the list up there, but when you go onto other Twitter accounts and you can go to who's following them and who they're following, and then just click on those people that look interesting to you. It's a good way to get your followers up fairly quickly. Same with Instagram, is just, following other accounts that are informative is the way that they're going to know you're out there and for them to follow you.
Great. Okay, next slide. So just wanted to remind you that you can get to all the CCC Maker accounts by going to our website, and you can see the picture here. Just click on the little symbol and that will get you straight to the CCC Maker social media. And then I've listed on the side Maura's actual link, as well as mine. I'm Market Gal, and then Carol is Sierra Cact. So those are some that you might want to follow. And then I've provided the links for CCC Maker on the other side. So don't forget that it's really critical that you do the hashtag CCC Maker, because that's one of the ways that we're able to track and help by retweeting or resharing what you're doing, and also for us to be able to document what's happening with the grant. So I think if you've got any other questions that you want to enter through the chat box, we'd be glad to take those now. Looks like we've answered Dominic's one. So I think there's a lot that you can learn too. One of the things that I find just by going through my Twitter feed, that I pick up lots of interesting articles like the one that Deb shared earlier. And so for you, it's also a chance to educate yourself about what other makerspace communities are doing. So it's a great tool, not only for you to send information out, but also to get in, because it truly is meant to be social and meant to be engaging for everybody. So doesn't look like we have any additional questions. So again, I wanted to thank both of my guests, Maura and Perry. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us today. And I think it will really go a long way to helping the other colleges get on board for social media. And you can always send me a message and I can get you the answer from Maura or Perry. So we look forward to seeing all of your posts on social media soon from all the colleges.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, everyone. Just wanted to say this webinar will be posted on the website probably within the next 24 hours. So, and we'll be sharing that out with everyone. So thank you very much. We really appreciate the information and the encouragement. I think that's the most important thing today. And this also follows in on another webinar that Karen did several weeks ago on blog posting. So if you're interested in social media and how to get the message out, how to tell your story, check out the blog post webinar as well. And next week we'll be joined by Brian McCowan with Kiva to talk about entrepreneurship and student clubs and how maker spaces can be used to develop micro businesses and also to develop the 21st century skills that students need to be successful in their careers. He will be joined by Danny Beasley from Laney College as they're doing some work together on several projects. So join us for that. And thank you very much, everyone. Anything to add, Salomon? Are you fine?
No, just keep on bringing on the questions regarding the internship process. There's much more to come. So if you have any questions, please reach out through Workspace or email or through social media. Some of you can find me there as well.
All right. Well, thanks very much, everyone. And we'll be seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.